Welcome to today's Fireside Chat with Kirsty Lewis from School of Facilitation. Hi, Kirsty.
Hey Kim, how are you doing?
All right, this is fab. Um, so you came on our podcast, didn't
Yeah.
you? A couple of months ago. How do you find the experience?
Wow. We can do introductions.
Well,
Do people know who I am?
they should
I,
do if they've listened to your podcast, which is a fabulous episode of the
it
podcast,
is, but there's a
I
massive
have to say.
assumption there that everyone's listened to the podcast.
Yes, they should be.
I know. Let's do introductions.
Okay.
Kirsty, founder of School of Facilitation. Hello,
Hmm.
everybody. How are you? I've been in this crazy world of freelancing since 2008 and birthed School of Facilitation over 10 years ago in 2014. And I'm here at the kind invitation of Kim because we both geek out on all things facilitation and training and membership and community. I think is the other big connection point for us. So I think that was probably the start point for the fireside chat today, in that we wanted to be able to give back to your community, Kim, and just share some musings and some thinkings around what we do and how we do it.
Yeah. And I think it's just about having a different kind of conversation and letting people get involved
Yeah.
as well. Like with the podcast, it's very much conversation between you and Mark. And there's like when I was listening to it, I was like, oh, I have questions. So
What
I
questions do you have?
imagine that you have that other people when they're listening to that episode of the podcast, they'll be like, oh, I have questions. And that's why fireside chats are so great because
Nice.
people can come and ask any
Yeah.
questions that they like. So, if you feel free to come on camera, everybody, and get involved in the conversation, or you can put questions in the chat and we'll go through them. I do have some conversation starters. Um, and the question that I asked earlier was, how did you find recording the podcast? Because podcasts are a little bit, I find them weird.
Really? Why?
I don't know, because I'm much more comfortable with a video podcast where I can, as a consumer, I like
Right.
being able to watch them and all of that. I I pay more attention to a video podcast than I do to just an audio one. But I don't know. I don't know. It's
What
weird.
makes it weird?
I don't know. I think maybe just my brain's weird. But when I'm speaking on
As
one,
in weird recording it or weird listening to it?
both, I
Oh.
don't know. I
Oh,
think
I've got no
because
problem. I just find it to me, it's a conversation. It's super
yeah,
easy.
yeah. I don't know. I suppose morning, Glynis. I find that it's I don't know. Doing a video like this, fine, not a problem. I know doing a podcast isn't really any different. But I don't know. I don't my brain approaches them differently.
Oh, really? I just see it as a
Yeah.
conversation. That's all I approach it as. I do no prep for them. I am, because we've got a podcast as well at SOF, and I always giggle when a guest says, "Can you send me the questions in advance?" And I'm like, "No, I can't because I don't know what I'm going to ask you." But we always have a prep meeting where we discuss the key themes. I said, "But
Mm,
just know we're going to talk about the key themes that we've discussed before." But I'm a lot more fluid, so
yeah.
it just rolls and flows.
What do you think? What do you guys think? Have you been on podcasts?
Yes, I have. I actually record one, and interestingly, I've got a perspective on that because I have concluded that most people, since they listen to the podcast audio only, um, I would like to bring my listeners in and have the same platform of communication. So I actually, as a host, turn off the video on purpose. With the people that are my guests, I always have like a conversation before on camera like this. And when it comes to recording, they're briefed, and I let them know that we will be turning off the camera so our listeners can be with us in this conversation in the same way. Because I guess a podcast traditionally is audio only. So that's just my perspective.
Mm.
So we keep our video on because we use the video and post and have it go through our YouTube channel as well, just so that there's it's more accessible for everybody. That's why. But I like seeing the person I'm talking to. because
Yeah.
that I bounce off them then.
Yeah, because you can bounce off the body language, and if you can see people, then you are less likely to interrupt if they've got you can tell if someone's about to speak.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Love that. But the podcast is a fabulous episode, and thank you so much for doing that.
That's okay.
Okay, so getting into the nitty-gritty, and like I said, feel free to put any questions that you've got in the chat. So you're Queen Facilitator, Queen of
Okay.
everything. What do you do when you get a block in your mojo?
I go for a walk, a run, a swim, a bike ride, and a long one at that.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
What about
Generally,
if you've got a
movement.
crazy mad deadline?
I get up early. I do it every single morning.
Yeah.
I have to do movement. That's my that's what I do to shift my energy. And I stop work at around 6. I won't work past 6. I can't, my brain just doesn't want to function. So, and I'm not the sort of person that can push on through, but I will get up earlier if I needed to. So yeah, that's what I do to shift my mojo.
Yeah.
Exercise.
And with you with the not working in an evening kind of thing, past 6. I mean, I try not to, but I used to do like 12-hour shifts. So I'd be like 8 till 8. And then when I went freelance, I was like, unless I'm being paid, like properly paid to do something, whether it's delivery or paid to design something, then, 4, half 4, 5, that's it, laptop's down.
Yeah.
Still do the socials, mooch about, but the work side switches on.
Yeah. I think we have to put boundaries around our time and what we're doing. Otherwise, it is really easy to keep on giving. So I think quite naturally, facilitators, trainers, coaches, consultants have a giving, a helping stance. What that then looks like is we over deliver or we give too much value. And what you'll end up doing is there'll be a real imbalance. There'll be an imbalance in the exchange between you and the client, or you and, say, community. And you'll start getting frustrated, irritated, like upset that it's not coming back and being reciprocated the other way. So I think and then the only person that is to blame for that is ourselves. So that's one thing. But also just we all know that if we don't conserve our energy, if we don't look after ourselves, we'll burn ourselves out, and then we won't be able to do any work. So I think we have to be cognizant that your present self is being kind to your future self.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Present self being kind to your future self. That's some deep stuff that we're getting into there.
Well, it's true though, isn't it? If we don't do that, we'll just burn ourselves out. And it's something you and I were just talking about before we came on air, is it's really easy to say yes to work. But then are we looking at the diary? Is it actually physically possible? Are there multiple deadlines all coming in at the same time? Like how is the work being spaced out? And you have to do that thinking before you say yes. I genuinely believe. Otherwise, you can't be grabby. And what I mean by that is some people might be going, but Kirsty, the world's really difficult at the moment and there's not a lot of work around. So whatever I get offered, I'll take. And I'm like, yep, hear that. But you can't, you'll only have so much time. You can't do everything.
Yeah. And I think you've got to give yourself permission to not do everything as well. You've got to forgive yourself for not doing everything. Like, because when you first start out, you're saying yes to everything, and you're feeling that if you take a holiday, it's not just that you're not earning while you're on holiday. You're also then taking time out. You've got to kind of give yourself permission, I feel.
I think on the holiday thing, if you can reframe it as you're refilling your energy so that you can go again, because we're not robots. We can't just keep going on automatic, and we won't be giving our best selves to our work, to our clients. And And if we do find ourselves in those moments, we might be showing up to our clients in a way that they don't want us to come back again, or we just don't do the best work, even though because we're so tired, we can't get our head around something or the way we deliver.
Yeah.
So I think if you can start to reconcile that, so I play a lot of sport, and you often hear sportsmen and women say rest is the same as exercise. So you have to rest your body, which feels counterintuitive if you're training for something. So you'd be like, no, I need to keep training. I need to keep the running. I need to get faster. I need to go longer. And yet your muscles need downtime to repair themselves. And I think that's the equivalent for us when we're taking a break. And like, even this afternoon, I'm taking this afternoon off, I'm going for a long walk. I just need some downtime to almost like mentally, emotionally repair my head so I can go again.
Yeah. See, I'm the complete opposite. The exercise thing has never been a habit that I've got into.
Right.
I mean, when I was in my early 20s, yes, I would do the gym. And that was more for the, sauna and stuff like that. But then I kind of just fell out of the habit. And I can go a full week without leaving the house, apart from
Wow.
go to the supermarket.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I was chatting to um it was Richard Price at L&D Co-work. And I was like, yeah, some days my phone clocks that I've done like 20 steps. And it's like from bedroom to living room. And then the phone hasn't moved until I go back to bed.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, I'll potter about. So I got one of those, I got a smartwatch. It's not an Apple Watch. But it's basically a 30 quid knockoff, but it does the steps. And it does the notifications, which is what I wanted it for. And I wore it just to see how much pottering around. So basically, how many cups of tea do I make? How much pottering around? And it was like on a normal day, I'd do 1,000, maybe 1,500 steps. And that's, up and down the stairs.
Yeah.
More tea, always have the tea. And it's like the furthest I might go is the patio to check
Do you
the
not go mad? Does your
photographs.
body not like cry, weep, and go, please, please, we need to go outside and see some fresh air?
I think I'm basically like a hermit.
Okay.
I like my space. But then on the flip side, I love being in the training room. I love doing the expos, I love that social element of
Yeah.
being a facilitator when I'm out, doing the training. I love it, but then I'm quite content to just be a potato and just sit there tapping away.
I guess I'm the antithesis, because I think we need to be physically fit to do the job. And it also helps us when we're on our feet from a stamina perspective. I think it also helps us, like, we know this, being out in nature from a cerebral, emotional, mental fitness piece as well. And it's also, back to my comment that I made earlier, your future self will thank you when you're in your 80s.
Yes.
That's all I'd encourage you. I'd encourage you to start weaving in just some light exercise, some walking.
I did do a yoga course with Fiona McBride.
Okay.
And that was lovely, like on a morning. So I think it was like 7:30 or 8 o'clock or something. So it's wake up. And usually at that time, I'm sat on the sofa with a cup of tea, watching the news, eating toast while I'm doing the socials before I'm, getting ready. And it was lovely. And on those days, I was actually more productive. My head was clearer. But then I'm like, yeah, but toast. Glynis, what side of the fence do you sit on?
I used to be really good, and then I had 2 kids,
That's hard.
and it's gone out the window. But I hadn't thought of an online yoga course, so I've put into my notes to find an online yoga course, because if I don't have to leave the house, it's more likely to happen. Yes, I keep saying that I'm going to get back into running, and I think that's probably a step too far. But at the moment, I walk the girls to nursery every day and pick them up, but that is about the best of my steps, and it's time for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you walk them there and run back?
I have started running there on the way to pick them up.
Yeah.
In the morning, I'll be honest, I'm usually just like, oh, just get me home quick.
Okay.
On the way there, 5 o'clock,
Yeah.
only 2 minutes, and I'm probably wearing heels and, well, wedge trainers, and work clothes, blouse and everything, but I still run. So that's been,
Nice.
yeah, it does
Well
feel
done.
really good. I hate the idea of doing it, but when I actually do it,
Yeah.
I don't, you were talking about feeling the need to do it. I never feel the need to do it, but when I do it, it's always worth it.
I think it's because it's such an integral part of my world
Mm.
that when I don't do it because I've been ill, or I've had, say, a heavy load of travel that meant I can't get out and run, I can really feel it in my body. Like literally, even my head is screaming. Like it just needs some form of exercise, whether I'm out running, swimming, yoga, cycling. It just screams it.
Once it's that habit and once it's
Yeah.
there, you notice when it's not
Absolutely.
there, but when it's not there,
Exactly.
it's hard to, yeah.
I've never been a runner.
I
Ever.
wasn't. The first time I did
No.
park run, I was like, I'm never doing this again. This is horrible. It's like being back at school. And then I got really into it. I was so close to getting my 100 t-shirt.
Yeah. Oh, you still can.
I
Go
am
back.
going to. The girls can start doing park run soon, so
Oh, cute.
I'm hoping to start taking the oldest.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
And that's only 2K.
Exactly. And it's
Yeah.
just and it's about it's just building it up. Like someone once said to me, one of my friends, he was like, oh, my New Year's resolution, I'm going to exercise 5 times a week. I said, so what do you do already? He said 2. I said, it's not the best one in the world. That's not going to happen next week. He's like, yeah, it will. I went, no, it won't.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, it will. And then obviously it didn't. And we have to build habits. It's the same with anything. It's building the neural pathway. It's building the muscle. Otherwise, and also examining our values and our beliefs around that particular, in this instance, running. Like, why is that important to me? Like, what do I believe to be true? And just working through it. Because if it's only just I'm going to go running attitude, no behavioral change will occur. But if it's something that's really important to us and probably a secondary reason, so like for my health, or I want to be able to carry on doing this into my 80s, it's deeper. It's more than just the run.
I need an instant, what does running do for me right now? That would help me do more of it, I think.
Endorphin rush, like
Yes.
like Kim described earlier, like you feel that just gives you that mental kick, like then a productivity in my day.
And sense of pride as well, I think. There's an element of that.
Yeah, well done me.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you're doing something like a 5K or doing one of those park runs or something. But yeah, I mean, I'd walk around one of those.
You can.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah,
Park run is
I
so
would.
friendly. It really is. Really friendly. The first few.
Kim, I think we need to find you a park run this year. Where's home for you?
Oh gosh. You know, I think they do them in Huddersfield.
Of course they do. They do them everywhere.
Oh, you know what?
There's like
I'm
no
not
hiding.
going to say that I'm going to commit to do any form of exercise that isn't walking up and down the steps for cups of tea. But I will commit to walking up and down the steps 2 or 3 times more per morning. There we go. I've got a stare thing. Okay, so talking exercise and things like that then, is that the driving force for why SoFest is basically, you know, the way that it is, rather than it being in a hotel, in rooms? Is that why SoFest is going to be an outdoor experience, to get that nature, that feeling of nature?
Sorry, you were linking it to exercise? No,
well, because you've got the nature, you've got being out there, you've got you know, that being quite physical rather than just being couch potatoes in a hotel sat in a conference room. Is that kind of with all that kind of feeling, is that why SoFest is going to be more of that type of experience rather than it being a traditional type conference?
Well, let's be honest. How much learning do people genuinely do when they're stuck in a conference room with no windows and are little mushrooms? Like, I just don't think it's a conducive environment. And I say that to my clients even. So the idea being that we are in big teepees and a change of environment and we're out in nature is purely of the premise it's just better for us. Is my attitude, and it's different. And I don't think you can have a festival in a hotel.
No.
And we're so, all of us, like, that's where a lot of us live our lives when we're in that corporate, when we're in delivery mode, is we're in hotels. We don't need that for our own development, I don't think. So hence being outside.
I love it.
Yeah, I
So
guess for our delegates, there isn't it often an element of newness being in a training room, whereas for us it is the norm.
Exactly. But I think also part of our role is to role model different.
Yes.
And to bring different spaces, different styles of learning, different ways of doing to our clients, so that they can be stretched and they can experience different, and versus a 1980s workshop. And I think in terms of SoFest, yeah, of course we could have gone to Five Lakes or any of the big hotel chains, but that's not bringing different to the community. That's not showing them there are different ways to do your learning and your participation. Also, it's just good to have the space. So we've got lots of space, which would be just amazing.
now I think that the wild swimming, though, I think that just that'd be so invigorating to do that after you've had, a full day of amazing collaborative sessions, and then to just go and have a dunk in a pond.
Exactly. It's not a pond, it's a lake.
No,
but yeah.
Are there fish in the lake?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
I should find out.
Okay, so I'm going to segue a little bit. Thinking back to when you first became self-employed, which was what, 16 years?
Yeah, 2008.
When you first made that leap, did you ever have any doubt that you were on the right path?
That's a really tricky question, the way you've asked it. Did I have any doubt that I was on the right path? I don't. There's a negative and a positive in that question. I can't answer it.
Yeah. So for me, as soon as I made the leap, 2017, I did 8 months with no work. And I was starting to have the doubt.
Oh, okay.
So at the 8-month mark, I was starting to have doubts. Am I doing the right thing? Can I make a business at this? Is it something that, that do I have something to offer people? Does anybody care? I'm not getting any traction on the socials. I'm not getting any traction from cold calling, from sending out flyers. Yes, I did that. And I was having big doubts about being a freelancer, being a business owner, that side of things. Before
no
I
is the answer.
got a gig.
I had no doubts.
No.
And I've very luckily always been employed throughout the whole of that time. What happened was I left, but I had a very clear plan and I had work already lined up. So I knew I was going to go and be an associate for a particular company, and therefore it made it an easier step out. And so I started working for myself in the January. I then did, I remember doing my insights training in April, and I was already doing delivery from early April, and then it just ramped up from there basically. And then I was doing very comfortably associate work all the way from 2008 to 2014, 2015, and then with SOF starting School of Facilitation. I had my own clients in that time as well, and worked for a couple of different, well, there's one main company I did associate work for, and then a few others, but then I just started really big projects for my own clients as of 2014.
Yeah. See, I love that. I think that's very much more a logical way to do it, isn't it? You know,
Well, I
want
think you
something.
can't, anyone listening to this thinking, oh, I'd like to leave, but please have a plan.
Yeah.
Don't just jump, because right now in 2025, the world is a bloody crazy place. And where the corporates are in such a position that a lot of them are cutting budgets. Whilst they might say they might engage you, people are having work pulled. Like I'm hearing friends having like budgets cut, and then just projects pulled altogether. So
Mm.
it is a bit crazy out there. There is work. There are some other companies at the other end of the spectrum who are super busy.
Yeah.
But I do think I've always had this belief the person with the most flexible behavior will have the better outcome. It's an NLP presupposition. And so I think it's always beneficial to have multiple plans and ways.
Fingers in pies.
Yeah. And doing things that you want to do. But I'd also say when you're starting out, it's experiment. Like you don't know what you don't know. And whilst you might go, oh, I am coming out and I'm a leadership coach, that might not be actually where you end up. So I started off in sales training, which I loved, and sales coaching, but I am where I am now with anything around facilitation and training coaching.
Yeah. And I think you can't just stay doing one thing. I mean, I'd go nuts if I was just if I started out wanting to just be an e-learning developer. And then I was like, okay, that's fine. But now someone wants me to build a virtual course. Now someone wants me to do some video. And it's like, okay, I'm having to pivot a little bit. And when you come into self-employment, you have a bucket of skills.
Yeah.
And then you might try and market yourself as one piece of the bucket, but you've still got all of these other things that you can use, haven't you?
And I think it's also, if you were still in the corporate world, you might change roles every 3 years and learn some new skills and some new capabilities and develop some new behaviors. And that's all that we're doing, just from a freelance perspective.
Yeah. So I've never been an associate. I've never done associate training. And I know lots of people do associate training. And in my head, I get it as it's a little bit like agency work, where you've got someone booking you to then design or deliver. Is that how it works, or is it?
Yeah, I think there's a bit more relationship though. So it's not just the handoff from an employment agency going, oh, I've got a job for you, go report to this person, you've got a 3-month contract. There's a lot more relationship building. So the business that you would work for, they're the ones that have got the client relationships. And depending on the client, depending on the project, they'll either bring you in at the beginning of that relationship because they need you to be part of the design and the delivery, and therefore you're part of the client conversations. Or there's other companies who literally just go, you need to turn up at this time on this date at this location, and here's the content.
Yeah. See, I've had a little bit of that before where I was delivering a virtual session.
Yeah.
And it was for a well-known retail company. And basically it was to do training for the night staff. So the session was 10 p.m. till 11:30 p.m. And I'm guessing they went external because none of their internal people wanted to do the late shift. And I was like, yeah, it's fine. And that was they gave me the facilitation notes.
Yeah.
And I was like, as part of my prep, I'd really like to watch the session so I can see how it's delivered. Just to make sure that I was hitting the right points based, making my own notes based on what other people were doing as well. And I only had these 3 sessions for each cohort, 3 sessions, but the actual course was a course of 12, where they had e-learning, they had coaching, they had other things in this course of 12. And so I suppose it's like being an associate, but it was really difficult for me not to see the whole picture, not to know what they've had before, what's coming after, what's in the middle bit. I've only got my 3 courses, and then that was it. They were done.
I'd say a decent training company, though, would bring their team together on a program like that, like walk them through it, talk about it. What are the expectations? What are the outcomes for the participants, and help join the dots? Otherwise, just feels, as you've just described, incredibly fragmented.
Yeah, because I would have loved to be like, oh yeah, so in this e-learning, you saw this or you looked at this, and
Yeah.
bring more of that into the conversation rather than it just being, okay, this is what we're talking about today, and that's it, and then being very strict on
I think that's
delivery.
that's down to the training company that you work with.
Yeah. But I mean, it was a nice group of people. They were very lovely. So how can you move? What would be your top tips for moving from associate to direct clients?
So it is about your network. So it's how you are talking to people, having conversations. Don't just think showing up on LinkedIn and putting some posts is going to be enough to create those connections with your potential clients. I'm guessing many people sort of leave an organization. So often that is your first point of reference. Like there will be people in that organization, like go back to them and be reconnecting. And it's not to say I want to sell something into you. It's a case of, can we have a coffee and a chat?
Yeah.
Like that's free. So and so building up those conversations. The other thing as well is to be networking within your own community as well, because sometimes what happens is through communities, people suddenly go, oh, I need an extra pair of hands, or I've got a project coming up with one of my clients, but I need some more people involved. Would anyone want to collaborate? That also happens. That's the easiest way to get started.
Yeah. But I suppose, like, for some people, they'll just be completely happy just doing associate work.
Yeah.
And that's
absolutely.
And build a fabulous career as an associate trainer.
Correct. One of the speakers at SoFest, Caroline Boyd, she did her occupational psychology dissertation on the world of freelance and associate. And so she's going to be talking about like, how do you thrive as an associate and how it works both ways. But so I was talking to someone just this week and we were saying, you know, if you are an associate, it's not one-way traffic, i.e. the training company just comes to you and gives you work. Like you need to be giving back the other way. And it's like, it is quite symbiotic. It's like, how do you create those connections? How do you work together? And you're not just an associate going, oh, I'm here, feed me, like give me a job. That's not enough. That is not enough.
So you've got to, like, if you've got a potential client, say, oh, actually, this is the company that I work with.
Potentially,
and,
if you don't want to own the client relationship, if it's because owning a client relationship, everyone goes, oh, I want my own clients. And I'm like, okay, help me. Like, do you know what that entails?
Yeah.
And it's a lot of work. And what I mean by that is it's the meetings, it's the writing the proposals, it's creating your pricing structure. It's then potentially having a negotiation. It's going through a vendor system. There's a whole host of meetings. It's the organizing before you even get to any form of design or delivery.
Yeah. And then chasing payments and invoices and things like that. And then potentially not getting paid for the entire thing. And, you know,
that might happen.
Yes. It's half happened to me.
Okay.
Half.
What does that mean?
So basically stuff happened.
Yeah.
And the people that were then paying renegotiated my fee. So I ended up just over half of what the invoice, but it was already a little bit late by several months.
Right.
So I was just like, you know what? Yeah, fine. Take it.
Oh my God.
But I know people that have not been, you know, they've been ghosted. And
I think if you have your own clients, you need to have contracts set up.
Yeah.
You can't just do it on a handshake and I trust you and it's all going to be okay. You need a contract that is signed by both parties so that God forbid, something like invoices are paid or not paid or late payment, you have got something to use.
Oh my God, my early contracts, handshake deals. They were just like, yeah, let's have a conversation. Okay, fine. Yeah, I'll do some work for you.
Yeah.
Okay, here's an invoice, 14-day payment terms. But yeah, so I never at the beginning, I didn't have indemnity insurance. I
Okay.
didn't have formal contracts. I was literally just being like, yeah, it's fine. Oh, we've had a conversation. I've got an email trail.
Yeah.
Like that'd stand up if I had to chase them for anything. It completely wouldn't.
No. So it is, even if you're like, well, I'm just a freelancer, the contracts and the insurances are there to protect you and to protect your client as well. Because what if you got sick? What if you then can't do the work? You've got an agreement in place. It's really like in the 10 years of running SOF, I've only had to have one quite difficult conversation with a client about very late payments. And that was a global luxury clothing brand that I had to sort of chase. And businesses you think you wouldn't have to have those conversations with. So it is worth having the contracts in place.
For definite.
For
I find
sure.
the bigger the business, the slower they are at paying.
But that's normal. And I don't think any of us should be sitting here going, well, I have a 14-day payment term and expect it to be paid. I think I'm really sorry. That is just, you're living in cloud cookie land. I think you accept that 45 days is a good term. If you can get it shorter, brilliant. But 45 days is the norm for any global business. Some of them will take you to 60, some of them will take you to 90. But then you get around that.
90 days.
So if you get on a payment term that's 90 days, that's easy. You just turn around and go, okay, that's fine. We're invoicing 50% before we start the work. So you get an invoice into the system. You have a PO that you own. And then you agree milestones for the final 50%.
Yeah.
But you make sure that if the project is, say, 3 months long, the last invoice is the month before you finish. It's not after you have finished the work.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't mind the 90-day payment term ones because like for a couple of years, I was juggling a few different clients, a few different pieces of work, and it almost became like a rolling income. I'd know like even if I don't work this month, I've still got an invoice coming in this month, or I've got an invoice coming in next month. So when you start to build up that actual momentum, when you're working with different people, whether it's associate, whether it's your own clients, whether it's recruiters, whoever, and you're like, okay, so this is a 30-day payment term, that's got a 45, that's got a 90. It's like the proverbial boulder rolling down the hill, isn't it? It just keeps going and going and going. So it takes time to build up that momentum, especially when you're first getting going.
Absolutely. And therefore it's only in the last, probably since pre-COVID, that I know I can pay myself the same salary every month, that it's smoothed out enough that I have enough money in the bank accounts to pay myself a salary, like the same income every month now.
Yeah. I've been doing that in the past couple of years. I've stopped now. But that's because I wasn't doing much for the Go Ginger side of things.
Right.
So that bank balance was going lower and lower, and I was like, okay, let's stop paying yourself now from that. And it's like switching the focus over to free spirits while still doing a bit for Go Ginger, but then not touching it so it can build up. And I don't know. So I have a mental money plan. I don't know if it'll work, but this is the thing. When you work for yourself, you've got to have kind of a different relationship to money. I think.
For sure. Right now, as we're speaking, we're like 3 months out to SOFES, like 95 days, and there is £28,500 gap.
Yeah.
That is not even, I can't just write it off and go, oh, that would have been the nice to have money to pay myself. That is hard cash that I have to pay someone for the food, for the tents, for the site, for insurance, for salary. And one way or the other, it has to come in.
Yeah.
So, but what's interesting, the point is, I could be sitting here freaking out and going, oh my God, like I'm down 28.5K. I'm bankrupting myself. But in my head, it's like, I'm a limited company. It's not my money. You take something called a business loan. It's a write-off cost for 2026. And I still know I've got all the corporate work within the business as well. And that's okay. It's a really different mentality. I don't know if I'd have had that mentality when I first started, though. I'd probably have sort of had more of a meltdown than I am right now.
Yeah. I get that. I'm kind of a little bit similar with where Free Spirits is. I think you've got to have, when you're doing something new, you've got to have faith that it is going to, faith and determination and sheer stubbornness that you are doing the right thing. You are on the right path.
Yeah.
Shout down that wobble gremlin if you're having doubts. And you know what? It will be fine.
Well, I think there's a couple of things. So one of my good friends is like, I'm naturally optimistic, as are you. And she said, I think you need a healthy dose of realism now. You've got to stop if you're too optimistic, it's you're a bit bonkers, which is true. And then a friend, I said to her, is there some quotes about stupidity and bravery? And she came back with some brilliant quotes. So here we go.
Okay.
Bill Mayer, to a coward, courage always looks like stupidity. Hayden Six said, bravery and stupidity are the same thing. The outcome determines your label. And then another one, courage is knowing it might hurt and doing it anyway. Stupidity is the same. And that's why life is hard.
Yeah, like that one.
Yeah. Oh, and then Paolo, I never know how to say his surname. Coelho? Be brave, take risks. Nothing can substitute experience.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
Do you think that you've grown a lot as a person since starting to work for yourself?
Oh my God, yeah. But none of us are the same people that we were 16 years ago. Like, how could we be the same people?
Yeah. I think I'm a lot more confident.
Right.
Than I was. I mean, I've always been pretty confident anyway, but I think I don't feel as awkward going into a room, if I'm going into a new company, into a new training session, I find that I'm a lot more comfortable in those situations than I was previously.
That's good.
So
I think anyone who says they're the same person that they were when they first started, I'd just be like, you've done no growth. You've done no sitting with a therapist, a supervisor, or a coach, sort your shit out. Like, yeah. I'd be really concerned if someone especially in our profession, said they haven't done they've not developed. And that's one of my greatest bugbears is when I hear trainers and coaches and less the coaches, actually, facilitators and trainers say, oh, I don't need to do any personal development, or I've not done any learning for myself for the last couple of years. I'm like how can you not? And it's like good old Covey, you need to sharpen your saw. We need to keep ourselves at the top of our game, because that's what clients want. They don't want what was going on last year. They want what's going to come in the next 2 years. So they do want us to be different and do our development and our learning for sure. Yeah. And I guess that's banging on about SoFest again, but that's a really great place to come and do that, because you've got 10 different speakers, you've got 16 different workshops, there's so many different touch points and different experiences that we're putting out there that are there to inspire people to go, oh, I've been hearing about, I don't know, Lego series play, and one we've all heard about, but have you ever experienced the workshop? So go and do that with Harry. Or I've got loads of Gen Z that I'm suddenly being asked to work with, but I genuinely don't know how to do that. So we've got the amazing Victor, who's a 24-year-old facilitator. He's going to talk about Generation Z and like what is the world like for them and learning. So I think, yeah, SoFace is a good place to just come and do a chunk of personal development this year.
See, I love that. A lot of my personal development is done when I'm out networking, and it's listening, what are people doing? What are their opinions? What are they working on? What challenges have they got? And then that kind of ignites the inspiration. If I'm out talking to people who work in a completely different sector, completely different industry, and I'm like, oh, I like that. And then I'll go away and I'll Google or I'll research or I'll put some stuff into ChatGPT and I'll be like, okay, so tell me about this, or how does it relate to this? And asking it to compare and, help my brain to take things on, or watch YouTube videos, or, watch the podcasts. I like watching the podcasts while I'm doing a bit of knitting and things like that.
Yeah. Nice.
Well, yeah. I like that. I do have books that I'm reading.
Okay, what are you reading?
Haven't quite got past the introductions on them, but they are on my desk, and it's all about subscription models.
Oh.
So I got those on a recommendation. And then I have other things. So I've got this, which will help me to decide what I need to do now, soon, and later. So I think everybody does personal development differently.
True.
Some people consume books. What's your favorite way?
Reading, talking to others, physical experience in the room.
Yeah. Glenys, what do you think?
It's probably varied over time. Used to be reading. I'd say probably don't get the time to read books cover to cover the way I used to. So looking much more for snippets. So social media, kind of quick things. Talking to people is probably the key. Sessions like this. I'm not good with podcasts. I'm good at putting them on. I'm not good at. I need to have something to take notes at the same time, and I can't. I end up doing two things at once. Doing a coaching qualification at the moment, so there's lots on that. But I'd say probably reflection is my biggest one. At the end of the day, what went well, what didn't.
Yeah,
am I going to do more of?
Yeah.
Nice.
I love that. I think if you can't reflect and think about what can you do differently, whether it's stopping doing something or starting to do something in a different way, then I think you're just going to stagnate. You're never going to grow if you can't reflect and analyze what you're doing, whether that's how you design, how you facilitate, how you network. If you go into a room and you're all like, oh, me, you're never going to have a collaborative conversation with someone.
For sure.
But yes. So we've got 10 minutes left. What I'm just going to do in the chat, I'm just going to share the link to Kirsty, your LinkedIn, SoFest, and the episode of our podcast. There is also the discount code in there as well, if you're interested, which is available till the end of March. And well, I know I just mentioned about how I use ChatGPT sometimes when I'm doing the personal development stuff. I just want to bring in AI for a minute, because as a delivery person, people may not think that AI has a bearing on what you do if you're just delivering. I know when design, it can. What do you think about it? So if someone just delivers, they don't design, they just deliver, how can AI have an impact on the way that they work?
I guess they're probably using AI without even realizing it. If they're using any of the tools like Miro or Menti or Slido, that's AI. Also, we've got to know the topics that we are delivering, and therefore even if it's Google or an AI tool, asking it for the most up-to-date information on that particular subject, just using it as a bit of resource and knowledge building.
And
Just
the prep work.
Two things I'm thinking about.
Yeah, for definite. I think the prep. But
In what
also,
way? When you say prep, what do you mean?
prep.
Sorry.
So if it's a new industry, so brand new, haven't worked in that industry before, prep about the industry, what kind of questions I might be asked. So I'm delivering to this group, I'm delivering this. What kind of questions or what kind of challenges do you think that could come up during the session? So I'm using it as an alternative brain that can put itself in my learner's shoes.
Yeah. Nice.
I think I'd use it like that. I mean, design, yeah, fine, bounce ideas all day long with it with design. But from a delivery perspective, yeah.
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 That makes sense.
So I'm just thinking, tomorrow morning you have a community pod happening. What can we expect from that? Because that's going to be my first one that I'm going to attend.
So the community pod's been going since 2020. They started during COVID, and they happen during COVID every Friday between 9 and 10 UK. And they're a space for facilitators and trainers and coaches and consultants to come and connect, to come and learn, come and share. So there's anywhere between 40 and 60 people in the Zoom room. There's always music at the start, there's poem, and there's silence. There's Kirsty's musings on what's happened in the last month. And then either it's myself or, more often than not, a guest is talking about a particular topic that is in relationship to our work that we do as facilitators and trainers. And it's a doing session. So often I say no slides allowed, because people just want to go. It's not a presentation. You're there to create connection for the group on the topic. So there's always a breakout room. It's an essential. And there's always just big conversation in the whole of the room, and the chat is always going off. People are always in the chat box chatting. So it's a very is proper community, and it's not just a transmission of one person's voice to many. So it's all about connection.
I love that. I think as facilitators, I think we're naturally quite sociable.
Yeah.
You know, we like chatting, sharing tips, and I wouldn't say pinching people's energizer activities, but collaborating with each other. There was a great energizer activity that I saw someone mention on LinkedIn, and it was where you ask someone to draw a sunrise, and then you say to them, now draw a sunrise that you remember. And it was all about the sun. If you ask someone to draw a sunrise, it'll generally have a floor, the sun, some birds maybe, but then there's a lot more thought that goes into drawing one that you actually remember, and how it's, firing different parts of your brain and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, I love that. And I love how collaborative being a facilitator, being in that world is.
Oh, for sure. Same and different to the exercise you just said. Kerry Price, who's based down in New Zealand, she put up a post today where she said to a group, draw a present. So everybody drew a present, and predominantly it was the square box with a bow on it. And then she said, draw your perfect present. And suddenly you get flowers, chocolates, a ring, jewelry. So you get the difference. And the point being, our language as a trainer and a facilitator totally impacts what the outcome is that the group will have and deliver on. So it's just a real reminder to all of us about our language that we use.
Yeah, that's it. And not to be confusing, like my question earlier about with the double negative in.
I was like, I couldn't get my head around it. My brain blew up.
See, in my head, it makes sense. But this is sometimes in your head, something can make complete and utter sense, and then you put it out of your mouth, and somewhere it just it goes weird.
It does.
Okay, so before we finish, thank you very much, Kirsty, for being on our first Fireside Chat. Thank you very much, Glynis, for joining us today. What would be, now I want quick answer from both of you. Last thing, your biggest top tip for facilitators. whether they're new, experienced, whatever. What would be your top tip for a facilitator?
Sort your relationship out with money.
Okay, thank you very much. I would say top tip, smile.
Mhm.
You know, because whether you're face to face or virtual, if you're smiling, if you're keeping the energy up, if you're that kind of person, then people will want to listen to you. If you're just like monotone and you're delivering like this, you're just going to send everyone to sleep. So smile, have the energy.
Nice.
I might go something around balance, but it's balance around people. So this is not a fully formed thought yet, but balancing you, them, and we. And what does that balance look like? Because they're all need some attention.
Nice.
I love that. I think that's a very holistic approach to have to it, isn't it? To make sure that you have that balance. Okay. So thank you all very much.